Hi guys, welcome to Healthy Dog Eats with Dr. Kaz, and I'm Kim Pachati. And this week's episode, we are going to the nuts. We are going to, I know, are you ready? Do you want to lay down? All right, we'll take your hat off. You did your shot. I haven't told him yet that there's no cheese in today's recipe, because we all know how Cosmos is like the cheese. Did you hear me? Little stinker. Anyway, we're going to the nuts. This is another item, very controversy. There's a lot of nuts that your dogs can have and are safe for them to have. There's nuts that they absolutely cannot have. So I figured we'd talk a little bit about that before we go ahead, and we are actually going to make some breakfast. We're going to make some pancakes today. But I learned a lot this week in doing some research. You know, we all kind of go towards the peanuts and the peanut butter for the dogs, because peanuts aren't a nut. Peanuts are a legume. They're grown in a pod. They're grown underground, where the rest of the nuts are all grown in trees. So we'll go through a little bit here. First of all, we've got our almonds. Almonds are safe for your dog. Best ground, because you don't want them to get this stuck in their throat. You know, you want to limit them. They've got a lot of great antioxidants for them. They help with the cell membranes and oxidative damage. So almonds are a good choice. But once again, we're going to limit everything we do. Macadamia nuts are a huge no-no. So those white chocolate macadamia nut cookies, dogs can't have them. They're non-fatal, so don't panic if your dog accidentally gets one, or steals your cookie out of the counter or something like that. Usually what happens is about 12 hours later, the vomiting starts, hypothermia, weakness, that kind of a thing. Not a fun thing to go through, so you don't really want to go through it. Pecans, same thing. Pecans are one or two aren't going to hurt the dog. Pecans, like pistachios, are ones, all nuts at some time or some point, alpha toxin is what comes from a mold called Aspergillus, I believe is how it's pronounced. So I apologize for my pronunciations of things. And what it is, the alpha toxin is one of the leading things that causes cancer. So that's kind of a little bit scary, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we get kind of going here. But your walnuts, your pistachios, walnuts, you've got English walnuts, you've got Japanese walnuts, you've got black walnuts. All three same kind of way. Once again, if your dog gets a chocolate chip cookie, or obviously we don't want a chocolate chip cookie, but a cookie that's got walnuts in it, it's not going to be too big of a deal, but we just don't want to give them to that all the time. Oh, we've got our blueberries out because we're going to be making blueberry syrup for our pancakes today. But peanuts. Peanuts were the ones that, a lot of people have allergies to. You can have a peanut allergy but not be allergic to nuts, or vice versa. So there's a lot of different things. Peanuts are safe for dogs. They're one, as we said that they're a legume. However, there's a lot of problems with peanut butter. And one thing coming up with peanut butter right now is the alpha toxins. Plus, the biggest issue is xylitol. If you don't know, some peanut butters put them in, and we'll even, on the recipe, a part of this, we'll even have a link for you to go to the list to find out which brands use xylitol in their peanut butter. That is detrimental to dogs. That can kill them. So that is a big, big factor we don't want to have in our peanut butter. But going back to this alpha toxins, it kind of got me a little bit, because one of the sites that we look at is called Dogs Naturally. And they're like, don't give your dog peanut butter. But yet everything has peanut butter for dogs. Everything, from cookies to baked goods to, just different treats and that. That's kind of stuff I'm talking about, the dog food and so forth. Some type of peanut oil, that kind of stuff in it. So that's a little bit scary. So I'm like, okay, I did a little bit more research. China and India are the #1 suppliers of peanuts. U.S. is number 3rd. Almonds is #1 in the U.S. So I kind of feel a little bit more comfortable going with something that's more supplied by the U.S. Not anything against China or India. It's just the Chinese kind of stuff kind of scares you, because of look at everything happened with the Chinese dog food, and the stuff with the plastic toys for dogs, and the ingredients, not the Chinese dog food, the ingredients that we got. And I don't think they have Chinese dog food. If they do, it's new and on me. But I meant the ingredients and all that kind of stuff that was happening from before that people were sourcing. So a whole thing kind of like put a whole different perspective. We were going to make peanut butter cookies here today, but I decided let's not do peanut butter. and we made our own almond butter. And with that, what we did, I actually made it a little bit thinner. You can see, and basically it can be made thicker so you can use it. I made it more like of a spread or something because we're going to be using a little bit in the syrup and we're going to be using a little bit in our pancakes. Very simple. I took 2 cups of almonds and I tossed it with just a little bit of maple syrup and I roasted them in the oven for about 25 minutes or so. Let them cool. Then I popped them in the food processor. Now this takes a good 5 minutes before it starts even turning. And you're looking at it thinking this is never going to happen, but it does. You just have to leave that food processor on and let it go, and then it kind of goes through, brings it in. Then we add a little bit of coconut oil. I put a little touch of cinnamon, a little touch of vanilla, just to give a little bit of a hint more flavor to it. You want to make sure that you keep it refrigerated. So why don't we just go ahead and get started on making our pancakes. We talked a lot. We'll go a little bit back over some of the other stuff that we're using, ingredients today as well. But the first thing first, I think that we're going to do is we're going to make a little bit of blueberry syrup. And we're going to do it very, very simply because we're just going to use some blueberries, some water, and just a little touch of syrup. So we're going to kind of let this start simmering and popping out and popping up the blueberries and kind of like breaking it all down while we're getting our pancakes ready. So we're just going to put in about a cup of blueberries. And I'm going to put in maybe just about a table. Well, first, you know what? I'm going to put in my water. I'm going to let that go. I'm going to wait to add the maple syrup till a little bit later. I'm going to let this break down a little bit first. All right, so I'm going to add just a little bit of water into this because there's no need. We're not going to add sugar. We're not going to add anything on, further onto that. We basically will add a little touch of maple syrup as this kind of starts breaking down. So we're going to kind of let that go on that respect. We're going to turn off our griddle here because we're not ready for you yet. We've got to make our pancake batter. So we are going to start with our pancake batter. We are going to first do our liquids. So what I've got here basically is I've got our 2 tablespoons of our almond butter that we use, and I warmed it up a little bit just because I want to melt it. I want it a little bit more creamier. Like I said, the reason I made it thinner is because I knew we were doing pancake batter. But you can make it as thick as you want, and it really is. It's so good fresh. Because one thing I found with the peanut butter, going kind of sidetrack here, you can get the organic peanut butter and you can get the peanut butter that says it's just peanuts in it. Make sure that you do that if you are using the peanut butter for you and for your dog, because a lot of the other stuff has the palm oil, has all the hydrogenated oils in it. The xylitol is an issue. They say that, once the peanuts are dry roasted, that it's supposed to pull out some of the alpha toxins, but I don't want to mess with if we don't have to. The almond just seemed to be a safer thing because a lot of times too for dogs that have a meat intolerance, like a meat protein intolerance, you can substitute almonds and some legumes and that's how they get their protein. So it's a little bit safer of a source. So we put in our almond butter. We're going to put in 1 egg. We are going to put in about let's go about a teaspoon of vanilla. And we're going to put in about a teaspoon. Oh, no, we're going to put about a tablespoon, not a teaspoon. Tablespoon of maple syrup, because we're not really wanting to sweeten a lot of the batter because we're going to be able to use our blueberries for that when those break down for us. And then we're going to use our whisk on this. Kind of whisk this up a little bit. Get that blended real well. And then we are using our oat flour again. Now this time I actually didn't use our ground oat flour that we normally do, like when we're making some of the muffins and some of the things that we're doing with it, we can make a little texture because I want our pancakes to be a little bit more lighter and fluffier. So I, once again, go back to Bob's Red Mill, and we use that because it's a finer, obviously if it's done in a commercial facility, it's a finer grade flour. So with that, we've got a little bit of baking soda, a little bit of baking powder, a little bit of cinnamon, and we're going to pop that in. We're not putting arrowroot in this time with the gluten because, like I said, we're trying to keep it a very light type of a texture. So we're going to get that in. And we have a 1/2 cup of coconut milk. And I could have chose almond milk, but I like the flavor that the coconut gives it because I actually did put a little bit of coconut in with our oats there. And boy, did I do that real good there with the whisk, but no big deal, it comes out. There we go. So we want to just whip this up to get it real light and fluffy. And then we're going to let it stand for a few minutes. So while we let it stand and let the air permeate so we can get super, super fluffy pancakes, why don't you go watch and empower Puppy Bite. Oftentimes when you're training your puppy and they'll kind of like stop and they start scratching and you're like, oh, do you have fleas? Are you itchy? Really, that scratching is just them trying to process what you're working on with them. He's not scratching, he's just being a butthead right now. Needless to say, that's their way of saying, I'm not so sure what it is that they're trying to tell me to do or what it is that they want me to do. So let your puppy take the time, let them go through it. Don't get worried about it. That's the way that they have to do it. They have to figure it out, and then they'll come back to you, and guess what? They'll get what it is you're trying to teach. And that's just another Empower Puppy Bite and a Cosmos tip. Hi guys, we are back, and our blueberry syrup is doing well. As you can see, it's kind of breaking down. We've got the water kind of going into it. I added just a little bit, about a tablespoon of regular maple syrup, and I also put in maybe about a teaspoon of our almond butter in there just to give that a little bit of that flavor as well. So we're just going to let this continue to go. We have our griddle hot. The way you tell if your griddle is hot, obviously, the sound of the sizzle. So, and the only reason that we're going to put it hot is when we put our pancakes on, we want our pancakes to set right away, and then we're going to turn the temperature down is what we're going to do so we can turn them out. So all we're going to do, let me use this spatula. I'm just going to pour it out of here. Usually I get all precise and measure, but we're not going to worry about it today. We're just going to put a little bit out. Try to make them all roughly the same size. You know, when we were talking about the peanut butter, one thing I found too, I ran across, there was a study that was done on the aflatoxins, and they found that actually the bigger companies like Jif and Skippy and all that kind of Peter Pan, their peanut butter had way low aflatoxins as opposed to like the natural healthy stuff that you get automatically ground. So that was, especially like the stuff in the health food store and everything. So that was kind of different, you know, from that standpoint too, because you would have thought that the health food store would have had like the better, thinking that, you know, the big companies, they manufacture so much, but maybe I can get one more pancake on here somewhere. Whoops. Get one more out of this. We'll put this in the middle. We're not worried about the big sizes. So what'd you call it? So you would have thought that the bigger places, because they buy in so much bulk, that there would be a lot more of the aflatoxins in there. So I was really kind of shocked, you know, that ended up that way. So we've got this going here a little bit, and we have to wait for our pancakes to bubble. And once they bubble, then we'll be able to flip them over, and we'll plate it all up, and then we'll be ready to have Cosmos taste that. He still doesn't know about the cheese thing, but I did cheat. I did get him. He's a sucker for coconut whipped cream, so I did get him some of this. So he'll be good. I think he's sleeping. Are you sleeping, buddy? You're good. So we've got lots of antioxidants going on, guys. We've got our almond butter, where it's doing real good. We've got our oat flour again, maple syrup, which we know and learned from in the past that is one of the best sugars to be able to give the dog. Not that the dog should have a ton of sugar, not at all. And they really don't need it, neither do we, but sweets every so often, you know, when we're giving treats, once again, you know, this isn't a meal replacement. This isn't a balanced diet. This is one of those special times when you want to have breakfast with your dog on a Saturday or Sunday morning and read the paper or sit out on the deck and just enjoy them. And it's a social thing. So we'll finish up. We'll flip these over and we'll plate them up, and we'll come back and see how Kaz likes them. Welcome back, guys. Well, we are ready. We've got our three all plated up. We've got Anna's helping us out today, so she's outside keeping the lab puppies quiet while we film. So we made an extra plate for her, and we got Kaz. We didn't put any. We put just a little bit of the blueberry sauce underneath. We put some of the just a little bit of whipped cream because I know he'll like it. Kaz, so you ready to try? Are you ready to try and see what you think? I didn't put it on there yet. You ready? He's so gentle when he eats, you know? All right, well, I'll leave it here because we know that you have to sniff it all first and decide if you like it. And we'll look back in about 2 seconds and he'll have it devoured. Anyway, thanks for being with us this week and learning more about the peanuts and nuts and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, I learned something too. We all stuff that Kong with peanut butter, and maybe it's something we better kind of think a little bit more about, because if alpha toxins equal cancer, not something I want to do for them, not something I want to do for us either. So once again, people, take these studies and they'll stretch them. They'll say, oh, this is that and that, whatever. So we're just trying to find out the truth and what is right, what isn't right. We're certainly not the big old experts here. Once again, always make sure that you talk to your vet, make sure that your dog is healthy enough to be able to have some of the items that we're making. It's not for all the dogs, but it is kind of cool to be able to cook and have some things with your dog that they enjoy. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next week. Oh yeah, the recipe, empoweredpups.com.